Welcome back to the Siris King Show. This is your host, Siris King. It's going to be a shorter video, but it's going to be part of a series of videos where I want to talk about it's kind of like, what does a Christian magician think about so and so? It could be any topic. It could be about another religion, another spiritual system, stuff within Christianity. Because I feel like in a very Christian world, it's dominated by canonic Christians. So a canonic Christian is a Christian that a lot of times looks at the Bible like the Muslims look at the Quran, or like the Jews look at the Torah, right? I'm gonna leave the books of the prophets and the other stuff in the Old Testament out. So I'm just gonna say the Torah, right? Where the Torah and the Quran most likely have different authors, if we're being honest, right? Let's keep it real. Moses didn't write all 5 books of Moses. It's a bit much, right? But there's more of an alignment, meaning you could look at those and think it's from one author, right? Whereas in the Bible, you know it's not, right? You know it's not. You know the Old Testament, New Testament are like completely different cultures. New Testament is in Greek, Old Testament is what, Aramaic? What else? Like the Old Testament, I mean, to be honest, Abraham wasn't even Jews didn't exist yet. They came from Abraham, so he was a Chaldean. So you're talking about a Sumerian Mesopotamian crossing to something new, right? Going all the way down to Greece and those peoples. And then when it gets to Greece and the Roman Empire, it then opens up to the world. So you're going like Sumeria, Hebrews, Egypt, then with Roman influence, Greek influences, Jesus. And then a lot of the times the places that they were in was the Middle East. So you get the beginning of Arab influence, realistically, right? So then the Bible is really a library of books. But people act like it's like one book. And it's not. It's just not. That's why it contradicts itself in people's minds. Not really because it does. It's just different books. So that's a canonic Christian to me. And so if you come with them and you come like, look, I think only like 1 or 2 of the apostles of Jesus, right? They mention how they died in the Bible, I think. The other 10, it doesn't even mention it, right? Then you have to go from church records, right? So then you got the church has their own records, but then the Protestant church doesn't accept the Catholic record. So it becomes a mess, even within canon. Then you have the Ethiopians, the Greeks, the Romans, not the Romans, the Russian Orthodox Church. They have more books in the Old Testament than the Protestants do. Then you get the Mormons who have the Bible and a different book. And this is, I mean, I guess you wouldn't call Mormons Christians that follow canon, but I mean, they kind of do. Honestly, they just added it to it. No disrespect to Mormons. I got love for you guys. So that's canonic Christians, right? Boom. Then you got the Gnostics who come with the secret knowledge. But they act like they're one group. There are many different, you might as well, saying Gnostic is random. Like it's so many different groups. That's not including the 10 tribes of Israel who got lost and, they got dispersed and they came with information that's not in the canon. So then that seems like Gnosticism to some people when you hear it. You're like, wow, you're talking about biblical characters, but it's not in the canon. So then that becomes under the Gnostic banner, even though it's probably not supposed to, right? Then you got the Martinists, which is really magical Christians, right? And then you got people who do Christian Kabbalah, like the Rosicrucians and Freemasons. They're Christian, but they have a different interpretation that's not really canon totally, right? So then it becomes a mess. But the Rosicrucians, Freemasons are in secret societies. So a lot of times people don't really realize that no, there is a big major wing of Christian magicians. Don't have to be left-hand path. It don't have to be none of that shit, right? It's Christians who understand that magic is part of the Holy Spirit in a sense. But there's an elevated type of magic versus the scum that you see, I'm just being honest, right? The reckless, anything goes magicians that are 90% of the magicians that you see out there, which would then be why when you get into canon, they'll say, don't do it. That's where that comes from, right? Because everyone doing it, not everybody. There's some people doing it sincerely, but when your shit is just ancestral, eventually it's going to fade away too because the human construct is just not built to last. So if you just depend on something ancestral, it would fade eventually. It's just my opinion as a Christian magician, And I say that as somebody who honor my ancestors. That's why I can do videos on ATRs. Just saying. Right? So you could come with that. You could come with your slick comments. I can comfortably say, I've seen a lot of you guys work agent. Listen, you guys be mixing ATRs, getting initiated in 3-4 systems, don't know one. Even if you do know one, it's a lot more. You talk for Africa, and Africa is like the whole world, really, like spiritually. Like, even having 4 ATRs on your banner is not even close to understanding Africa. To be honest with you. So, but you guys confuse Africa Black. You guys are lost. So that's why I said in the previous video, I ain't going back and forth with no ATR motherfucker. None. Like I said, until he might, Hermetic dude, Kabbalist, we could get it cracking. The other dudes, fuck out of here. Right? Just being honest. So, I just wanted to leave it at this. With Christian magicians, what does a Christian magician think of Gnostics, and what do they think of people who are into canon? So, this is the funny part. A real Christian magician would love both. They're both his brothers, right? They'll get along more than Gnostic, obviously, for sure, right? But they was tell the Gnostic, you guys gotta be careful, because the Gnostics, at least the people we call Gnostics, which tend to be people who are following the branch of Gnosticism that was from the Nag Hammadi library books, and that set off his own branch of Gnosticism, right? I think if you're a Gnostic that's from an older lineage, you know this already. But it's for people who are, weren't born in that world. And because Gnostics has their own world. People don't really realize that. And when you talk about the disciples, they're most likely different communities of people who went all over the world, right? And that's, like I said, that's not even counting the 10 tribes. And that's not counting other people who achieve gnosis independently, but because they achieve real gnosis, it matches up to the first two groups. So there's people who do this Gnosticism for real. There's people born into this shit. There's people, and they have, I don't even say all tradition. They have just understanding of stuff that never got written down. That's some real shit. But the majority of people that we call Gnostics are people who are from the Nag Hammadi library, and they got these books that were, 66 something in number, and I think it's 66, but I don't know if that's symbolic. It sounds like crazy, like, damn, 66 books. That sounds symbolic. But it's in the 60s, right? Could be more. And so you talk about them, right? Yeah, like they don't realize. So the Gnostics will come in and say, well, this was included the Bible's altered, blah, blah, blah. They don't realize the Bible, the Gnostic books is for gnosis. The Bible is for two things. To get people, because see, the Gnostic doesn't realize this all goes back to the Jews, right? And with the Jews have something called Kabbalah. And in Jewish Kabbalah is not made for everybody. It's not made, it's only made for the best of the Jews, right? Now, for whatever reason, Christians didn't absorb that. They didn't. I mean, I just saw a Tucker Carlson episode, which I got to do a video on, and he talking about Kabbalah's the devil, right? They didn't absorb that for some reason. And when they didn't absorb it, it created problems, because there's Christian Kabbalah, but Christian Kabbalah, like the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Knights of Templar, Knights of Columbus, are not really part of the Christian canon anymore. And people would come in and say, well, they're not Christian. So the problem is, if Christian Kabbalah was accepted in Christianity, you say, okay, well, the Bible is for the regular folks, right? Moses made Kabbalah for his elders and the elites of the Jews, right? That's what it was originally made for. And the same thing would apply to Christianity, the best, right? So anybody who knows would never look at the Bible and say a person shouldn't read it. If you're a Christian, of course you should. It's powerful. Like it's more unique than the Gnostic books in the sense that it can help regular folks who are clueless. And then if you're into alchemy and magic, listen, if you're into alchemy and magic as a Christian magician, every line of the Bible is magical. I'm not even playing. It's frustrating. You say it might take more than 100. That's why alchemists are connected to Christian magic. And then people say, I got to extend my life, because it's so much wisdom in that book. It might take hundreds of years to decode it, because every line is magical, it's alchemical. 40 days and 40 nights is what you do in alchemy. When you have your substance, your work that you're doing, you got to wait 40 days, put it in a dark closet. Like, you say, damn, like, gee, like, whoa. Like, you end up, every single line ends up being magical. So there's no way a real Christian magician would say the Bible is nonsense, we go to Gnostic. And you hear somebody saying that, they're not really, I mean, they could be a Christian magician, but they're not a Christian magician who knows what they're doing. Christian magician accepts both. The Gnostic books have sacred knowledge that's important. The Gnostics, I'm going to give them their flowers, have some knowledge no one decoded in public. Yeah, people know about Sophia. You know, you could go to Hermetic Kabbalah, get initiated, they'll tell you a random Elohim made the earth. That's Sophia. Right? Or like, I'm sure if the Hermetics know that, there's some upper levels of Jews who know that too. But in the public information, nobody got that. That Sophia, Demur, that shit is unique. From that aspect, they got that for sure. Even saying an eon came down and became flesh, people have it, but when you understand what an eon is from their concept, no, Gnosticism, those are some bad mother effers. Without question, them dudes got some knowledge. But a Christian magician understands we need both. We need the knowledge Gnosticism has, and we need the Bible and the canon that was preserved by not just the Roman Catholic Church, the Coptic Church, the Ethiopian Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, which also went to the Middle East. Well, I think it went to the Middle East too, but became the Russian Orthodox Church. Like, we need all that. They got the Catholics got sacred books that a lot of people don't know existed, and then the Orthodox Church, whether it's Greece or Russia, they got artifacts that people forgot about. A Christian magician knows all this. The Ethiopian aspect of it, for the brothers out there, not only is the second oldest Christianity, the church beside Georgia in the Caucasus Mountains, Ethiopia is important to both the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. Muhammad, when he lost in the Middle East, he went to Ethiopia to get back up, right? And so Islam wouldn't exist without Ethiopia. The Ashkenazi Jews, if you go to the Ethiopian Jews, they uphold some certain traditions that Ashkenazis forgot, right? So Jews and Christians, Ethiopia would be important and be important to Muslims, right? So Ethiopia is a major power in all three Abrahamic religions, whether people know it or not. And as a Christian magician, you know all that, or you're supposed to. So a Christian magician would not look down on the Bible or Christians who follow canon. And then obviously they'll be aligned with the Gnostics as well. And then you get into Martinists, which are the ones that are not as known. The Martinists are straight, legit Christian magicians. So when you enter this, it's important to know all that. Siris King. Till next time, peace.